All right. Good afternoon once again. I'm Sarah Niguas and I'm your segment host for today's Perk Ur Heart. So this afternoon we'll talk about tough choices, and this could be about career, family matters, or something that you are passionate about. Pero madalas nating itanong sa ating mga sarili, pwede bang lahat? As they say, life presents us with all kinds of choices. And to help us in this discussion, we have invited a very special guest. She's somebody I really admire in PMAP. Gorgeous, kind, and intellectually interesting lady. She's currently the senior consultant for Great Place to Work for ASEAN, Australia, and New Zealand. She has almost 3 decades experience in human resource management, market research, and training. She's also a well-being and resilience advocate, triathlete, earth warrior, wife, and a mother. Friends, please help me welcome Miss Rhea Rosas Gaddi.
Magandang hapon. Maraming salamat, Sarah. Nakakataba yung perk, your heart, na-perk yung heart ko with your generous introduction. I'm happy to be
Yes,
here.
kailangan nating ma-energize ang ating mga puso. Good afternoon and thank you for joining us again today, Miss Rhea. I was reading your bio note and I noticed that your achievements are truly momentous. A career woman, mother, and a wife all at the same time. So getting into those stages in your life may at some point prompted you to go through a difficult process of making a decision. Do you have some sort of a guiding principle in deciding which ones to pursue? And can you share with us how you arrived in making those decisions? And I hope that you will also share with us your experience as you go through those life stages.
Sige, salamat. Nako, and we were talking about this earlier. Making choices is never easy, and the choices we need to make change as our life stages also change. So, kanina pinakikinggan ko, I like what Jacqueline mentioned about evolving, and making choices also allows us to evolve. So, yung title nakakatuwa, 'di ba? Sana all. Career na
Yes.
po, oo, mahirap nga ang aking habang malanobelang profile. But maybe what I wanted to share from my own experience is the career, the family, personal advocacies. Ang napansin ko in my personal experience, they all are available at the
Mm-hmm.
same time.
Mm.
But one just becomes more focused, or I get excited, or it needs my attention more depending on the life stage. So for example, when I was newly married, it was my husband and career. And then when I became a mom, it was being a mom. So as the life stages change, the situations where I had to make decisions and choices also change. So for example, one of the more challenging situations where I had to make a choice, it was difficult to make a choice, was a career shift and change in role. So, in if I may share, I became a consultant. I've spent a lot of years, 17 plus years with Development Dimension. And I love the organization. Palagi kong binibiro yung mga kasama ko. Diyan na ako nag-asawa, nagkaanak, naging nanay. Hindi naman ako gagawing lola ng anak pa ngayon. But because it was the environment where allowed me to evolve and also make those choices. And as I was given the opportunity to head the country operations, and talagang nakaka-excite, but it was a big responsibility. Parang 'di ba sa presidente, parang maliit siyang bansa, malaki ang responsibilidad, and making the
Right.
choice or to accept was difficult. Hindi siya madali. But I went through a process of discernment, and I'll talk about this, and this is what I wanted to share this afternoon, that process of how do you arrive at the decision, or how do you prepare yourself, how did I prepare myself to arrive at that decision? And that was the discernment that was very helpful to me. So I was given that opportunity and assignment to be managing director, but over the years that I was in that role, nahirapan talaga ako, and parang I had a very good leadership team, very young, very purpose driven, magaling talaga. But as their head, and given the business landscape at that time, I came to realize that I was not the right leader at that time to lead the operations.
Okay.
So, ang hirap eh. Parang, ay, ano ba to? Parang, dahil hindi ko kaya. So, I went through a process of discern because I had to pause and step back and look at the current situation. I had to look at the future of the company. I had to look at my team. And also, I had to look at myself. So, parang lahat yan ilalatag. Nilatag ko. And I really thought about it. And the process of paglalatag pa lang mahirap kasi nga parang there's a lot of things that I had to consider, and there were consequences also of the
Mhm,
decision.
mhm,
So, but what helped me in that experience of discernment was I went back to my values. I went back to what was really important to me. And at that moment when I made a decision, and this is also I learned from my mentor, it will always be the team and the clients before myself. So parang, nahihiya kasi ako parang, I knew somebody better for the role has to be there. But hindi pwedeng pumasok yun while I was still there.
yeah.
So I had a heart-to-heart talk with my boss, and she was very open and also compassionate, siguro compassionate. And she understood and she supported me all throughout my transition. So that was one of the most difficult situations where I had to make a choice. So talagang, but the process itself to arrive at the choice, when I did that discernment, it was really, what was I praying for? Kasi parang sa discernment, it's not even a choice of bad or good. It's a choice of between two good things, di ba? Do I
Mhm,
continue,
mhm.
just persist, or do I let somebody lead, which is also a good option. So I prayed about it, and I prayed for the courage and also fortitude na lead me to arriving at that decision. So yun, that was one of the humbling also, but also it was a difficult um, experiences to make and make a decision. Maglalabas ba akong tissue? Niloko lang.
Yeah, you mentioned about discernment, ano? Kasi especially these times where there's a lot of noise and it's very difficult to stay focused. It's very difficult to pause and drill down on items that you really wish that you really wanted to decide on. So ang tanong ko diyan is how will you um be able to share to our audience papaano yung process of going through a discernment other than kumbaga considering your colleagues, the future of the company, and also your personal ano no attributes mo, personal aspirations mo. Kasi yung discernment pa lang parang ang hirap nang gawin eh na o ang sinasabi ng society dapat ganito ka, dapat career woman ka, you should be at the peak of your career, dapat yung pinakamataas na posisyon yun yung i-target mo. Whereas deep inside you, kino-consider mo din na I have a family, I have a son, I am a wife, I have a husband, and I am also thinking that there's another person better than me. So kumbaga, how did you segregate all those kumbaga noises around you? Kasi napakahirap noon eh.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially
And
the pressure that the society has put upon women.
yeah. And I'll borrow what the word that you use, and it's very spot on. Noises. Noises.
Mhm.
The first step, mahirap pa, but the first step to any major decision that I had to do is remove the noises. And to remove that, you have to stop. You have to find not peace, but you have to pause and create a space for you where you can think.
Okay.
Ang galing ng kakasabi mo noises. Kasi nga maingay eh. You cannot think, you cannot focus when the world around you is noisy. So that's the first
Mhm.
thing that you need to do, remove the noise. So paano yon? It could be as simple as meditation, maglakad ka sa park, something that is quiet. Sa umaga tahimik, sa gabi tahimik. I even went through nung pandemic, nasa taas ako ng bubong ko. And
Oh.
some of my friends and my spiritual director, when I attended a Survey retreat, ang tawag ko doon, bubong. Makinig sa bulong sa bubong. Kasi hindi ka
Mhm.
makalabas eh. And yung bubong namin is one of the most quiet places in our home. So, wala naman akong garden. But, nga
Mhm.
no. So, find time, make time to find that space, personal space for you.
Yeah. Ang ganda ng
Definitely.
sinabi mo, makinig sa bulong sa bubong.
Ang
Kasi
ganda.
sometimes when we pray, parang we feel like our prayers were trapped sa ceiling lang, ano? So, pero the good thing is when we pause, when we make space for ourselves to take some quiet time, pansin ko when we make a decision that's really spot on at the center of, if I may say, God's will, we experience a sense of peace. Kaya nga nung nag-uusap tayo kanina, sabi mo, kapanatagan ng loob. Can you elaborate more on that?
Oo. And it's not the personal space and quiet is not even about spirituality yet. It's about
Mm.
yourself. It's very interesting that you mentioned. I have to think about my husband, my anak, my team, society. When listening to it, bakit wala yung me? And that's the most important thing to think of first. Yung sarili ko, and not in a selfish way. Kasi ikaw yung, while the environment around you will, your choices might impact them, you have to take a look at your being first. Sarili mo muna.
Mm.
That's where the quiet helps. Tingnan mo yung sarili. And yung kapanatagan, when I'm up there or when I'm in my quiet place, syempre, kailangan kong ilabas yung mga naiisip ko sa loobin ko. I need to articulate it. And what has helped me in that process is journaling. Mahilig ako magsulat eh. Dami kong notebook. Dati kahit sa likod ng resibo ng bus, minsan nagsusulat ako sa receipt. Kahit anong receipt. Kasi parang those are my thought bubbles, I have to write it down.
Aha.
But in journaling, it helps you visualize what you're thinking. But it also helped me put down the option. So nakikita ko siya.
Mhm.
Kasi minsan nahirap, di ba? Mag-isa ako, kakausapin ko sarili ko, oy, Rhea, ganyan, ganyan. But when I write it down, pros and cons, and that's where the consultant, I think my training as a consultant would come in. Ito yung medyo tactical eh. O, sige,
Aha.
pros and cons, ganyan. At least nakikita ko. At more than I see it, I'm helping myself process. The thinking
Alright.
process helps me. So I journal it. So, then pag nakita ko na, okay, then that's where I pray over it. Okay, I pray over it. And that's, yung kapanatagan kasi hindi ko siya ma-explain, and it's not immediately in one sitting lalabas siya eh.
Mhm.
It varies. I guess it varies. To me, it goes through some period of time. Pero mararamdaman mo siya habang tinitingnan mo na yung options and you pray about it and you think about what's ahead of you and what you have at present, then you make that decision, mapapansin mo, ako napansin ko, napapanatag yung loob ko, yeah. Sometimes it may not be the right decision, but you feel that ito yung decision that I can do, I want to make. Hindi ko siya ma-explain, but it's a process.
Aha.
And I was sharing with you earlier, I like this line I heard from one of my coaching classes. Clarity is in the process.
Okay.
And
Right.
I just share this bit of kwento na when I did my first retreat, diba, spiritual retreat, it was a silent retreat. And I
Mhm.
highly recommend once a year you do it. a silent retreat. Um, and then my spiritual director asked me, so why did you come? What are you looking for in this retreat? At that time, I was going through, I had to make a decision also. And I said, Father, I want to find answers.
Mhm.
And then sabi sa akin ni pare, what if there are no answers? Ha?
Mhm.
Sabi ko pangatlong araw na ng retreat. So parang, it dawned on me, Father naman, sana sinabi yan din sa flyer. No? So, but it dawned on me, sometimes, because it's a process, it's
Mhm.
possible you will not find the answers, but I became more aware of myself, not
Wow.
finding the answer. But in that clarity and awareness of myself, suddenly nagkakaroon ng linaw
Mhm.
yung sagot, leading me to a decision. So for me, that's my experience. And
Mhm.
I'm always grateful to my community, Magisteo, and the Jesuits who have helped me, taught me about discernment as a process. And because I use it even outside of a retreat. So major decisions, I go through it. Lagi ako may kalakip na dasal, and then it helps. That's how I learn how to handle making tough decisions in life,
Mhm.
both work, family, advocacy. Yun.
Yan. Parang naiiyak ako sa mga sinabi mo. Ako yung naiyak eh, no? Oo. I'm getting key points based on what you said. Having the time to be with yourself, yung quiet or stillness, timing. And I can also say that at some point you were looking for affirmation when you joined a quiet retreat. So I'm looking at those things. This time, what practical tips can you share to our listeners, especially those who are in the crossroad of pursuing their dream job and building a family in the hopes of achieving a meaningful and peaceful life, as they say.
Yeah, yeah. What helped me, maybe to add on to the discernment process and the pause, is I learned to have a circle of trust. These are a group of people. Some of them are not barkada, some of them are barkada, some of them are my prayer group. Kumbaga may mga pockets of, I call them my circles of trust because it's where I need a different perspective to look at the situation I'm currently face. And then they ask me the questions. They don't give me the solutions, but they help me think through. So I call them my circles of trust. So, for example, if it's looking for a new work, a career shift, it's helpful to ask people who are actually in that industry, in that career, and
Mm-hmm.
get some idea or information. Know what you're looking for, what that job offers, so that helps. What also helps, and this it not and this I learned during the pandemic when I joined the coaching program by Coach Masters. It's to some people, to me, it works that I talk to a coach because they don't know me eh. So kumbaga parang yung takot ko baka ma-judge ako nito, baka hindi
Mm-hmm.
eh. It's just really a very open, objective way of listening and helping me look at the situation from a different lens.
Mm-hmm.
So kasi
Mm-hmm.
minsan tayo pagka sa situations, I get too close to the situation. So parang hindi na ako makatingin ng ibang pananaw or perspective. So having that circles of trust or a coach, somebody who can help you look at the situation or a career objectively or from a different lens help.
Mm-hmm.
Yun. Plus, of course, yung values and purpose, you always go back to it. So, like right now, when I joined Great Place to Work, yun na parang, that was also a major decision for me. But I was so moved during the There's only one question that both my boss now and the regional head asked me. how can we support you in your aspirations? And that was it. So parang, syempre inisip ko nga kung tatanggap ba ako. Parang, am I going back to HR? Parang tatanggapin ba ako? Tanda ko na di ba? Sa kahit magpagupit ako ng buhok na ganito at magkulay. So, I mean, age is, but that was the deal breaker for me. And I prayed about it. And to hear my boss and the heads supporting my advocacy, it was a, so yun. So yun.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Rhea. I think we had a very deep conversation, and I hope na mas marami pa tayong oras ano. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing a lot of insights for today's segment. Thank you so much.